Ah!
Yeah.
Yep.
We're recording.
Yeah, but you haven't got a head.
Please let me have a head.
Ooh.
Is that better?
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't you, it was the camera.
Okay.
Okay.
So, who are we?
Hi.
So, Ed and I are two recent graduates. Okay, yep, go.
Hello. I'm Edward John Roberts. I don't know, I think it's because it echoes in here.
Okay, I'm Jamie Thomas Pritchard. And
I've never thought you seemed like Thomas.
Thomas Stanley.
Yeah.
Start again. We can call this down tomorrow. These little laughing bits will keep.
Yeah. Hello. See, this is where we do need a name. Genuinely, this is where we can say hello. We are Push Bar to Open.
Yes. We are
Push Bar.
Push Bar.
It's quite nice actually. I haven't just said it. Push Bar. Electric storage heater.
What has my dad got in his flat? Immersion boiler.
Immersion boiler.
Put the immersion on for half an hour and then I'll be able to open that off. Yes, let the immersion.
Boil the kettle, it's cold!
Yes, let the immersion heater for 25 minutes before we can have that.
I don't have an immersion, I just have to let the hot tap run for about 2 hours before I bath before 6.
We need a theatre name, don't we?
We really do. We really need a name. Yeah, but Neil said it
Alter
wasn't.
egos. Is this still recording?
Yeah. That's all right, we've got about 3 hours worth of
Okay.
recording, so we can just...
We are,
hello. Hi. How you doing? Hello. Hello. We are...
a name to be decided on.
Yeah. I'm Ed Roberts. He is...
Jamie Pritchard.
Together we are a theatre company. So
Which we still need to decide a name on.
yeah, well we had one,
We had
and then we got told it was rubbish, so we got all insecure, and now we doubt ourselves whenever we come up with a name.
So we were called Cabin Fever.
We were.
Cabin Fever Theatre Company. But we had some feedback on that and maybe the name wasn't the strongest. So we're still in the process of
Having a
thinking of a new name for our company.
But we do have some sort of experience.
Some sort of experience.
We both did the Contemporary Theatre and Performance course at Manchester Metropolitan University.
Yeah.
Both graduated.
At the Cheshire campus.
Well, we didn't graduate at Cheshire campus, they actually let us into Manchester.
Yeah, so it was sold as MMU, but it wasn't actually in Manchester.
No.
So that in itself was a bit of a con. On top of the £9 a year you've got to pay, on top of your accommodation fees and your living costs, so all in all I'm about 50 grand in debt and I'm 22 in 4 months. But we won't be able to do that.
But we have come out of it wanting to be a theatre company because we thought with this massive burden of debt, what is a nice dependable way of making some income for the future?
Yeah.
In the course we worked with
Many established artists, such as
I don't think I'd like to call them artists. I think that's blowing smoke at places we don't want to go to. We worked with Neil Mackenzie, the artistic director of Flair Festival and he's artistic director of Flame
Performance. We work with Kevin Egan, who is a co-founding member of the theatre company Reckless Sleepers.
He is. We worked with Nancy Riley formerly of the Worcester Group.
Yeah, and in our third year for our directed projects, we work with alongside. I work alongside Anna Fenham.
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't. We'll cut that bit out tomorrow. So in our third year directed projects, I personally worked alongside Michael Pinchback,
who is famous for
Bolero, and is famous for the man who went into space with something on his head.
The man who flew into space.
The man who flew in. Yeah. Well, so. The man who flew into space with something on his head.
His head.
You could have had anything on his head.
We don't know. We
Okay,
went
so,
for the roof of his apartment.
He
He's from round here as well. You realise he's like the only established person for the Midlands.
Alongside Paul O'Donnell.
We did not have anything to do with Paul O'Donnell.
Okay, so in our third year, we worked alongside established artists. I personally worked alongside Michael Pinterek, who is well known for Bolero and the man who flew into space from his apartment.
Yes, I worked with Anna Fenimore on
Pigeonhole.
She's from Pigeonhole,
She's
which I always mistake with the band Pigeon Detectives. Do you remember that? And they always which was like, you remember the Fratellis?
yeah.
They were kind of like them, but worse.
Are they from Chelsea Day?
No, that was Fratellis, not Pigeon Detectives.
Uh-huh.
I remember because the Pigeon Detectives had an album with a stag on the front, and I found that weird because if you're Pigeon Detectives, surely stick to what you know as a pigeon. That's going on track, but yes, I work with Anna Fenimore.
Where did she Lincoln? Was it Lincoln?
Oh yeah, she is a professor at Lincoln. No, Leeds University.
Leeds. Welcome to Leeds, by the Butchers. Is that Huawei is a theatre company? Is that?
I think we've covered most bases there of who we are. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what is this piece about? So, this piece is about James Bond, the James Bond franchise, the James Bond movies that have been happening over the past 54 years now, to be exact. Is it 54 years? Yes, because
Yeah, 62, the same age as me dad.
Yeah.
Actually, almost. It is, yeah.
He doesn't look a day older than 24.
I'm not, no word of a lie, the only way I know how old my dad is
because
of how old James Bond is. I don't know how old my dad is. I know how old James Bond is, and then I work it out from there.
So whenever you got to think how old your dad is, just
I go,
think of when Dr.
No,
No
I do something, Dr. No, when I was like 62. Happy 55th birthday, Dad.
Yeah, so the piece is about James Bond, so
Not specifically about our sort of.
yeah, about our connections to James Bond, our connections to James Bond growing up, how we were brought up with James Bond, about the 6 different actors to date that have played James Bond.
But officially.
The Bond
universe, I suppose.
Universe,
But also, I mean, it's an autobiographical piece primarily from our own experiences, but also we are lovers of James Bond. We know, well, blowing our trumpets, we feel we know a lot about him, but also we've done a lot more research into the background of it. And whilst doing the research,
I've just realised this is here and it's going to be on video. So
That's nice to know that.
these are our questions.
You realise you're going to put in a continuity error now.
Yeah. We'll carry on.
Yeah, that was obviously, James Bond does have a darker side. Ever since the first book came out in the 50s, it was brandished as sexist. But there is really a darker side of it. And the fact that we grew up as little kids, I mean, I remember my first ever experience of watching the film was watching GoldenEye, I remember, which is obviously the same age. It just came out in 95.
I was 94 maybe actually. So I've got Terminator 4 with all
You've ruined that. Nice little segue. But that's bad. It's bad to watch Bond as a kid. He's not someone you should look up to, really. And it's about those contradictions. The fact that we love it, but we know it's not a good role model, and all of that caught up in it, and how it is such a huge part of our lives, but wider culture, and how it is quite possibly that epitome of how it's sort of this edifice of masculinity, but we know that it is flawed.
What does the piece discover? So the piece discovers, it starts off with us discovering how well known and idolised and how heroic James Bond is perceived, especially in young children.
It starts as a piece which is very based in sort of the factual world of Bond, isn't it?
And how Bond is this and Bond is that and Bond is everything growing up as a male you want or you aspire to be or you desire in life. And then as it goes on, it starts to discover how Bond isn't actually as truthful as it should be, and we start to realise how it is flawed in many ways, such as
Yeah, so I feel like I'm giving away the whole. There's an interview Sean Connery did in 1987 where he talks about it being acceptable. In fact, he uses the word right. He says it's right to hit a woman, which is obviously completely and utterly atrocious, and it's something which really, when we saw it, knocked us back, because that is someone we've looked up to, that's someone we idolised, that's someone we wanted to be him, and then we wanted to be like him, and then we wanted to play the same parts as him when we were deluded enough to think we could act. And then even now we're still making a piece centred around him, and he thinks it's okay to hit a woman. And all the way through, when we are idolising, when we're talking about, in really quite a fun and enjoyable and entertaining way, about how Bond is fun, all the way through there's this little niggling doubt about the fact that it isn't a good thing. And I suppose that's by what we're doing in that is we're commenting on, in many ways, what we do every 2, 3, 4 years when a new Bond film comes out. We personally, and en masse across not only Britain but the world, we go along and we sit down and we enjoy the ride, we enjoy watching Bond, and we just forget that it's awful.
I think the thing is as well is if you ask any, say, 9-year-old typical boy to 12, 13-year-old typical boy, our age, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was either a professional sportsman or David Beckham.
Well, actually, for me, it was Emil Heskey.
Who was
him from Leicester?
It was either a professional footballer or it was James Bond, and these were two people that you looked up to because you've been brought up with all your life, and you've just been knowing them, and your parents watched them and your grandparents watched them because they followed this franchise for so long.
And plus, I think that's it. It isn't just, it's our generation as those people who are just coming out of education. We're in that position where we're mature. We're as mature as we're going to be ever. We're adults, we're finding our way sort of completely and utterly in life, but we still want to be little kids and be like Bond. But our dads were like it. Because like I said, my dad's the same age as Bond. He, all the way through his life, has grown up loving James Bond. We've got something which really is quite universal. It isn't just for our generation and how they've idolised James Bond. We've got 54 years of both sexes wanting to be Bond or wanting to be with Bond, and it is all for the wrong reason, and that's what we want to try and just point out.
But on top of that as well, we're going to point out that, well, we realise that Bond has these many flaws, and the people that play Bond say these wrong things or have done this in their lifetime or that in their lifetime, but there is still something in the back of our heads that no matter how wrong these people are that have played Bond and how wrong these people are as individuals, you just cannot stop being attached or with Bond in some way, shape, or form. There's always that connection with Bond, even if you've only seen like one Bond scene in your life, or you've followed the whole. How many films is there now? 25 altogether. You will always have some connection with Bond.
Yeah,
it's the theme tune, or the actor itself, or the Bond girl.
I think the best way to put it, I mean, it's a cultural addiction. Obviously, it came from the 60s, the generation where pop culture came into being, and obviously the mainstream media was really kicking into action then, and that kind of thing, and the entire world is still addicted to this fantasy of a man who was frustrated in the war and had to stay behind a desk when he wanted to be going out there, he wanted to be killing people, he wanted to be making love to women, and he had to stay behind a desk. It says there's a documentary called Everything or Nothing about Bond, and it's a really quite nice and almost poetic way of putting it about Casino Royale. But for Ian Fleming, it's the autobiography of a dream. It's the autobiography of the man he'd like to be. If his internal thought, his subliminal thoughts, all the things you, in civilized society, you wouldn't articulate, the fact that you're obsessed with drink and violence and sex and speed and that kind of thing, the things you don't say, that's what Bond is. It's all the pieces of masculinity which really
are wrong.
Yeah, well, wrong, and when things are civilized, are not put forward. You should not drink excessively. You should not use anyone, especially, in my opinion, women, obviously. You should not be violent. And that's what Bond celebrates. He drinks too much. In the old ones, he smokes too much. He uses women. He drives too fast. He kills people. These are all atrocious things, and yet we sit there and we laugh it up whilst eating popcorn.
Because we are addicted, being children. I think we've pretty much covered the last one. That's Bond. That's the message. What else do we talk about in here? So also within the piece we talk about, obviously the history of Bond, but our own personal connections to Bond itself. So when we were first introduced into Bond, how we were following it since we were young children, how we read the books, watched the films.
We also have two personal stories, which is, I have a case of where I live on the Northamptonshire-Leicestershire border. Very close to me is where Roger Moore used to live in the 70s and the 80s. When he was the Saint and then Bond, he lived in the village of Church Brampton near me. So I have that, and I have that connection to Bond. I have been in the pubs where he drinks. I've been in the pubs where he still quite regularly drinks. Whenever he comes this way, he stops at a pub.
From Monaco.
But when he's just popping by, just
popping
popping
by,
for
just popping. Just one or two.
just
one or two halves.
A couple of cans.
Yeah.
He wouldn't. Cans. He wouldn't. What kind of beer do you actually reckon?
Banks is mild.
with
a Melton Mowbray pie.
He does like pork pies.
And some with ketchup.
And again as
English mustard.
As we like ketchup, it's ketchup. He does ketchup on his pie. But as long as it's from Melton Mowbray, I don't know. Well, not eating meat, probably. I shouldn't say that.
I bet Roger Moore's one of those guys that when you have a roast dinner as well, he asks for like the skin off the chicken.
Oh, I bet he does.
And when you do like the like when people do the gravy and you pour the meat juice into the gravy and like mix it all up, I bet it's one of those guys.
Too much salt as well.
Too much salt. But it's got arteries a bit.
Let's not talk about Roger Moore.
Let's not talk about Roger Moore. He had 4 wives.
He's got only 8.
Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded,
survived.
So yeah. Ed has your story of how your personal connection to Bond. I have mine as well. So on the way to my grandma's house, we passed down this road, and there's a house on the right-hand side as you pass it, and that was apparently where Sean Connery lived for many, many years. So that was just a story that stuck with me from when I was.
Because obviously, when you think about Sean Connery, when you think about
he lived in Stab.
you don't think of it. You see Sean Connery sort of with the laser going up his tracksuit, and you don't think that man lived in the West Midlands.
Yeah.
He was an adopted black country boy.
And if you want to, it's called the Norton Road. It's halfway between Stourbridge and Kidderminster. So if you ever want to
knocking on the doors, asking if Sean still lives there.
Hey up, Sean. Money.
It's like your Sean.
Measurement.
I did a
that would be a good thing to do now actually. Well, just get the good.
I did a impression of Pierce Brosnan the other day, and it was quite good.
Go on.
No, I can't do it again. I did it, and I sort of, because he has that sort of mid-Atlantic voice. He's sort of a bit English, a bit Irish, a bit American almost in his voice.
Yeah.
My name's Bond, James Bond.
Hello, Jack. Moneypenny, have you got me a good?
You see Blofeld, he's hanging about down the cut. I saw him, he was flying.
Q, have you got me a new car or what? Mine's only got 3 wheels now. Bloody hell, Felix, what are you doing? Anything else? So we talked about us.
Should we talk about past performances? Well, like where the inspiration for doing this bit came from.
Yeah. So we've previously.
Sam Allardyce is James Bond below Sam.
You know, one of my best friends is going to have Sam Allardyce's niece. So if he plays his cards right, he could be starting against Romania in September.
Also, my mum and dad own Engelbert Humperdinck's old dining room table.
Really?
No word of a lie. Obviously, it's not quite I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you never know. If you play your cards right, if you stay chummy with your pal, you might meet someone. You might meet Big
Might be in
Sam.
the dugout at Wembley Stadium, November the 10th.
Well,
when we play France.
you're still looking for an assistant manager,
Yeah.
innit? You never know. You wearing the right shirt.
Are we talking about past performances?
Yes.
Yes, so we've worked together in the past, most recently in January of this year.
It wasn't.
No, it wasn't most recently.
Most recently was Mancraft, wasn't
Yeah.
it? You know, I got full marks.
Really?
Not on the whole thing, obviously, but on tech, I got full marks
Really?
because of like building the set and like organising all the tech. I got full marks.
Sign you up, not me.
They still-
He's a one-man
they still-
solo.
they still-
Oh, well.
No, but seriously, they after all that, they gave me full marks. I think it was out of guilt because the amount of times I asked them to buy those pieces of set off me and they said no. I think I just guilt tripped them into giving me extra marks.
I bet John's still there trying to get rid of him.
They're not a little bit young,
Yeah.
I have to-
So, we've previously worked together. We created a piece called 5 minutes 20 seconds, which explored the themes of snooker, snooker idols, snooker heroes, and how we were aspiring to be these snooker idols.
And failed because we're
And
atrocious at snooker.
So,
We actually, ironically, we made a piece about snooker and how ironically we're bad at snooker, even though we bought a full-size snooker
full-size
table.
table.
And we do.
Which
we
we've
have-
still got.
We have. And inadvertently, because we spent so much time around the snooker table, we progressively have got better at snooker. Well, not brilliant, but I mean, like, we're not, like, we hit the...
We're not
correct-
Jimmy White standard.
Well,
Jimmy White got
well,
five, six
yeah, but
times.
I'm going to say, but look at it this way, we have the same amount of world championships
As Jimmy White.
When it comes to the world championships, we are just as good as Jimmy White.
So,
I'm
yeah.
going to have that on my gravestone. Win the same. I and Edward John Roberts win the same amount of world championships as James White.
That previous piece could be seen as this piece, just with a different theme.
I think, yeah,
I suppose.
we're looking at making a trilogy. I sound like
Star
I
Wars.
was going to say Peter Jackson. So we've got one with a wizard and he wears grey, and then later on he's going to come back and he's going to be wearing white. Big difference.
Then he becomes a farmer.
So we've got the first piece, which is 5 minutes 20 seconds, which is a snooker piece. We have the second piece, which is
This.
double O. We haven't actually said the name of the piece, which is double O. We're making a piece
I thought it was
called
called
double O. I thought it was called double O. We can't make another. I thought it was double
I
O.
thought it was called PPK.
No, it's double O. You said double O earlier.
Okay. So should we just say,
And then we're potentially
Happy.
we're going to be making a third one, which is about being from the Midlands and how you're from the West, which is awful, and I'm from the East, which is far better. And you grew up in a town, I grew up in back end of nowhere. Again, an autobiographical piece about growing up and finding yourself. That sounds like I'm about to break into song. On top of a hilltop.
I'll get the fan and the smoke machine. Hang on, should I just stand on this chair and do some fake songs? And you just sing Christmas
I
time?
feel like Julie Andrews.
I feel like Cliff Richard.
My grandma met him.
Really?
My grandma met Cliff Richard. He used to have a house in North Wales in Betsy Cowan.
Yeah.
And my grandma was a massive Cliff Richard fan. And she found out. So she,
Just pop
yeah,
like.
literally like knocked on her. She met, like one of her like absolute heroes is Alan Jones. You know, the opera singer.
Yeah.
And she was in a charity shop in Carmarthen, again in North Wales. And she was talking to the woman in the charity shop about buying an Alan Jones CD, and said, and Betty talking about, oh, I love Alan. And she's like, he's from here, you know, yeah, he volunteers in here every now and then. And he walked in, and my grandma fainted.
Really?
And sort of fell backwards and was landing on all of the old Pavarotti and George Michael albums. That's what I assumed.
Alan Jones, please do not come.
Alad, not Alan Jones.
Alan.
Not Alan, Alad.
Alad, please don't come watch this performance of Lord's Heads now, my fine.
Performance in itself.
Should we just. I I think we just need to stand still for 5 seconds and say the piece is called. I thought it was called BBQ.
No, I thought it was Double O. I thought we decided Double O.
Okay. This piece is called Double O.
How well can you whistle? Not very well. Can you whistle in and out?
Anything else we can say about Ron? So we talked about who we are, which company, who we work with, we met at MMUC for 3 years, the piece about Bond character, the piece together, Is that
Well, yeah, because you know when they're on the ice, they have the automatic.
Yeah.
Because coincidentally, every single gadget that Zhao has, Bond coincidentally has one to counteract it. Like when he's on his roof and he fires the ejector seat and it spins the.
You know when Q gives him this car and he gives him the manual and he says that should take you about like an hour to shoot through it, and then Pierce Brosnan throws it up and he just says it just took a few seconds, Q.
Should we actually? The real reason why we've made this piece is because of a deep-seated admiration and obsession with Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, I like every single one of Pierce Brosnan's Instagram photos. I follow him on Facebook, Twitter. Mamma Mia was a standout performance for me. What did he say about Meryl Streep?
Oh yeah, Pierce Brosnan. We have about Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan agreed to be in Mamma Mia before he even knew anything about the film, which he should have been. I mean, he'd been a musical for many years before, and so he should have twigged. He agreed to be in the film just because he heard Meryl Streep was going to be in it, and apparently, whilst he was at college, he had a massive crush on Meryl Streep, and he just wanted to be able to work with Meryl Streep.
And what's that line that he says in Taffin?
I say Tiffin.
Tiffin's like a dessert.
Is it?
Tiffin's a dessert.
Tiffin.
You know what Tiffin is? It's kind of like bread and butter pudding. It is bread and butter pudding, but with like some. I'll tell you later. Alex made it me once.
Is it a stove cake?
I think so. Like oatcakes.
Hey, oatcakes are not a stove cake.
They are from Stafford, aren't they?
Stafford ain't Stoke.
Stafford's in Stoke.
No, it is not.
Stoke's in Stafford.
Shit.
Well, I never had them, and I live about 40 minutes away. What was that line?
Well, maybe you shouldn't be living here.
Well, maybe you shouldn't be living here!
You need to put your sunglasses on. He'd be there because he's hungover when he does it.
Thank God, we're over there. I think we need to like muck around a bit in front of the camera as well.
That's all we've done.
No, but we've got the text that we.
Oi, get off my one. I paid good money for that. I had to forge an email, forge a letter.
Put your gun up to the camera, see how good that looks. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you've got an orange bit on the front, so it's not going to look as good, is it? I've been thinking, painting that out, get some bright nail varnish and how to do it. If we hang on, just. Can you make him so it's like